This is Jim Feist in Las Vegas, and joining me from sunny South Florida is Hank Goldberg. And we're going to call Hank Mr. 7-0 because Hank kicked butt yesterday. 7 picks in the NFL, 7 winners, and on Saturday he swept the board in the big conference championships. Hank, welcome aboard. Congratulations on a great week.
Thank you. That's a lifetime experience to do that. But I had a couple of close calls. The Green Bay game I was sweating that one out. And I'll tell you, the Rams game gave me a little bit of a scare. First half, the coach lost track of time. He did a very poor job, I thought, in the 2-minute drill. He did Goff threw the ball 33 times and only ran the ball 5 times going into the last possession they had when they got into the 2-minute drill. And then he finally started giving the ball to Gurley, but time was, they were up against the clock, and he kept running the ball with Gurley and throwing the ball to Gurley, and he got the ball on every down. And they ran out of time. They had to kick a field goal instead of coming away with 7 points. Wow. Against the defense that was really hurt going into that game. Where they matched up against that defense anyway. They were, but I'll tell you what, they did Arizona a big favor because they just all they had to do was get into a pass defense against him because he was throwing the ball on every down.
Right. Some of these coaches, I think they get lost in their game plans, or they deviate from their game plans. But 33-5 in passing to running is not a good balance, and that you should never really never do that.
Not when you have a guy like Gurley in the backfield.
No. Well, we had some news breaking this morning, Hank. The New York Football Giants finally made some moves that a lot of people feel should have been made a long time ago. They fired Jerry Reese and Ben McAdoo this morning.
Well, I think the 2 leading contenders for Jerry Reese's job are Scott Pioli and Elliott Wolf. And either way, it wouldn't be a mistake. They're 2 very capable guys. Pioli, of course, has got a connection to Parcells. That's his brother-in-law and son-in-law, one of the 2. Anyway, Pioli got his experience in New England and then went on to Kansas City. And he's been successful pretty much wherever he's been. And Elliott, his father, was the general manager of the Packers, and he's a legacy there. He's been working with the Green Bay for 12 years, and he's a very bright man, young man. And, he'll do a good job if they hire him. So I go back a long way with Elliott. His father and I are close friends over the years. And Elliott went to the University of Miami. That's where I first got to know him. But as far as Spagnuolo takes over, the defensive coordinator is the interim head coach. And I wouldn't be surprised if he goes back to Eli next week. Against Dallas, because Spagnuolo, I think, would like to have the head coaching job, and I think he'd like to win right away.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, it opened up out here. This is interesting. I don't know what effect this firing is going to have on the line, but this morning before the firings, Dallas was a 6-point favorite. It's it's mostly still 6. There's a 5.5 out there. They're playing at the Giants next week. Of course, we don't know who the general manager is, who the coach is, and who the starting quarterback is for the Giants. But I'm sure that'll work itself out. Tonight
I'll tell you, weather could be a factor in that game too. It's supposed to be a cold front coming in this week, and you never know in the Meadowlands with those winds. Could not be a good day for the Dallas quarterback. And the Giants defense is going to respond to Spagnuolo, I'm sure. But I'll tell you something. This coach for the Giants is the worst coach they had since Ray Handley. And that's pretty bad. Yeah, he even looked like an idiot standing on the sideline. I mean, every move he made was the wrong one.
Yeah, if you can say he's as bad as Ray Handley, that's pretty bad because he was a disaster. Now, I remember that. We have some big games. We watched last night. We watched the Philadelphia Eagles go up to Seattle, and they were as much as a 6-point favorite in that game. The Sharps came in and took the dog and knocked it down to 3.5 by game time. And Russell, the magician Wilson, who absolutely has no running game and no offensive line, somehow gets loose, runs. He's their leading rusher. He's absolutely amazing. But they're not a very solid football team. But Russell Wilson makes them a very competitive football team. Philadelphia still is very strong. They got a great record, 10-2. They're going to the Rams this week. The Rams are a 2-point favorite to open that line. There's no shame in their game to go to Seattle and lose. This is a tough West Coast road trip for Philadelphia, but as far as I'm concerned, they're one of the top 3 teams in football.
How did the Giants do at Seattle this year?
I don't recall that game.
I believe they won.
The Giants won at Seattle?
I think so.
I'll look it up. I will find it in a minute. Let's see here. Let's see. This is Giants went to Seattle. No, they lost 7-24. That was at home. That was at home. They hosted.
Okay.
They hosted Seattle.
Some bad team went out there and knocked them off. I forget who it was.
Well, let me see here. I'll tell you. Seattle. Seattle, they didn't start the season off very good. They lost at Green Bay in the first game. They won at home against San Francisco. They beat the Colts. Let's see. They went to Giants and won that game. They beat Houston at home. They lost to Washington at home, 14-17.
Oh, okay.
But Washington is, and they lost to Atlanta at home too, 31-20, 31-34. They lost 2 home games this year.
Yeah.
Seattle is not the team they were years ago when they had the Legion of Boom. They got 2 of those guys out. They've gotten a little older. I think they made a trade a couple years ago for the center they sent the center down to New Orleans for the tight end. I thought that was not a good idea. That really damaged their offensive line. And they really have the lowest paid offensive line in football. Whatever they're paying Russell Wilson, they should double it. Because the only reason they win any games at all is because of him. Without him, they might be a 2-win team. They're just absolutely amazing what they do because of one guy. But anyway, that was last night. And then, of course, Philadelphia goes to the Rams this week. The Rams have really put together a great season so far. And it's getting down to the home stretch. The Pretenders are still in there for a little bit, and they're going to be gone soon. The Contenders are there. We got Pittsburgh at Cincinnati tonight. And then Pittsburgh next week on Sunday night hosts the Baltimore Ravens, who are really playing well right now. And there's a soft line already, but this is not a real line. You probably couldn't bet this. Pittsburgh 7 or 7.5 in that game. And quite frankly, I think that's too high.
Well, we'll see what Pittsburgh does tonight against Cincinnati. They've done pretty well against them in the last 3 years. But Roethlisberger is going to be possibly without his favorite target tonight.
Yeah, Brown.
And Cincinnati is probably going to try to run the ball against Pittsburgh and try to keep the ball away from them. Cincinnati is, Dalton is not playing very well, really. And, Pittsburgh, you would think, would be able to handle him. but Pittsburgh plays to the level of their competition, and that's what they do. They play better against the better teams.
I mean, just last week, I mean, they almost lost to Green Bay with Hundley at quarterback. I mean, that's the kind of team they are. They
gave up 3 touchdown passes to them. A guy who yesterday ran for more yardage than he threw for.
You know, the Green Bay Packers are interesting.
By the way, against Tampa Bay, who was missing 2 starters out of his secondary and had very little pass rush, and he was just way off his game again.
Yeah, he doesn't. If he's going to be a good pro, he's going to take a couple years of development to happen. The Green Bay Packers, they have a guy on the bench right now named Aaron Rodgers, who's one of the best there is, and he's supposed to come back in week 15. He's been throwing a little bit in practice, but he's not allowed to. He won't be back until week 15. If they can continue to win, they are definitely in the mix for a wild card. And they go to Cleveland this week. And I don't know the last time Cleveland won a game, but it might have been 3 or 4 years ago. I'm just joking, but they don't win very often, as you all know.
That's no joke.
I know. But the Green Bay Packers are 3.5 on the road at Cleveland this week. And I'd say this is a pretty important game for Green Bay to really stay focused and play their best, because you want to keep that winning streak going until Rodgers comes back, because they can be a contender if he comes back and can play at all up to his skill level is very high.
I would say one thing about Cleveland: they don't play bad defensively. They gave they give teams a little bit of a scare, and on defense, that they're not a walkover.
No, and they got that wide receiver has been out for like 3 years for the drug issues. He's back. They got a few more weapons. One of these days, the Browns will actually win a football game. But I don't think it's going to be against a team that's really focused on continuing to win. I don't see that happening. But, with Hundley, he's not that good. You could catch this guy, but personally, I don't think it's going to happen this week. Hank, if anybody knows inside issues about sports, it's you. Kansas City started the year off 5-0. They've now lost 6 of their last 7 games. What the hell is going on with this team?
Well, the surprising thing about Kansas City is that yesterday, Alex Smith threw for 4 touchdown passes and had a 70-yard run in the game, and they still lost. And, they've got a lot of guys injured on the defensive, some key guys injured on the defensive side of the ball, including, in their secondary. But the Jets played a great game offensively. That quarterback had a heck of a game, and Kansas City couldn't stop him. And every time the Chiefs scored, the Jets had an answer. So you can't blame yesterday on Alex Smith. And what happened was Andy Reid stopped calling the plays yesterday, and they scored 30 points. And you would think that they could have beaten the Jets scoring 30, and they didn't. The Jets offense, the Jets now have a couple of wide receivers who are playing very well.
The Jets are probably the biggest surprise of the year, because they were actually favored not to win a game. And they've done very well. McCown has played extremely well. He's 38 years old. He's been around for a long time. But he plays well. He plays hard. The whole team plays hard. So
yeah,
it's they have an interesting game this week. I mean, they're finally John Elway starting to catch in the media, starting to get some of the blame for destroying this franchise in Denver. Because
he was in Miami yesterday, and They took a shot of him and Marino talking before the game. But Vance Joseph, and that was another thing yesterday. Joseph, he won't be back next year. But he was on the staff with Gase last year, and now the Dolphins were winning by 20 points in the second half, and Gase ran an onside kick against his old assistant. That was Bush.
Why did he do that?
Yeah.
What the hell's wrong with him?
Because he's a jerk, okay? There was no reason for him to do that, and I think Joseph couldn't have been happy about it. There was no reason for him to do it. I don't know what he's trying to prove. It's been so long since he had a lead, I guess maybe he had to show something. And this next Monday night, they got New England coming in. And I hope Belichick runs it up on him. He deserves it.
Yeah, I'm not very impressed, like you're not, Gaze. I don't think he's done a good job. I don't think he belongs in that position. I'm kind of surprised. I thought he was a pretty good position coach, but he certainly has not developed into a head coach. We got some college basketball's been good. What do you think of the Final Four in the in college football?
Well, I think they have the right four teams. I think some of the other bowl games could be better games than this Final Four. Although, Oklahoma, I think is going to be the Oklahoma game interests me. Alabama against Clemson. I think Clemson will beat Alabama. I think Clemson's just better right now. But Alabama deserves to get in. There's no politics involved in this. Alabama, this is done by computer, and Alabama deserves to get in. I don't think Ohio State deserves to get in. You don't get blown out by Iowa, and for that matter, Oklahoma crushed them too earlier in the year. So I don't think Ohio State has a complaint. Urban Meyer, is going to complain, but this team, they got Iowa beat them by, 3 scores? Something like that?
It was ugly. It was an ugly score.
Yeah. And by the way, they didn't exactly destroy Wisconsin in their conference title game. Wisconsin had a chance to win that game.
I don't think anybody's going to argue. I don't think Alabama's as good as they have been the last couple of years, but they are better than Ohio State on any given day. I mean, just there's no question.
I'm sorry to interrupt. The one game they lost was at Auburn when their 2 starting linebackers were hurt.
Right. Auburn was a very good football team. I think they ran the gamut, though, with the last 3 weeks. Beating 3 tough teams in a row was tough, and Georgia caught them in a good spot.
Georgia's a good team.
Georgia's a very good team.
I don't think they have enough offense to keep up with Oklahoma.
Oklahoma's, they definitely are an explosive football team. That's going to be a hell of a game. It's the 4 teams. I mean, anybody can make an argument. It should be 6. It should be 8, et cetera, et cetera. But the 4 teams they got there should put on a pretty good show. I'm looking forward to it.
I thought the best game of the weekend was Friday night with Stanford and Southern Cal. That was a heck of a game.
It was a heck of a game.
And Southern Cal is good. Whoever Southern Cal plays in a bowl game, that's going to be an entertaining game.
Yeah, that's for sure. College basketball, Hank. We got some games tonight every night of the week. Hank and I post our games on our website, and Hank has been doing.
There was an interesting game yesterday. I'm sorry. There was an interesting game yesterday. Seton Hall against Louisville, and I was looking at that game, and one of Rick Pitino's closest friends is the coach at Seton Hall. So I was thinking, I wonder if Rick, who's suing Louisville, is giving Ralph Fuller any advice going into that game. I called somebody who was close to Rick and asked him. He said, nah, Rick doesn't think he has to help Ralph Fuller to win this one. Says that Rick may not have that high an opinion of the Louisville coach.
Right.
But so I went with Seton Hall, and Seton Hall was a slight dog in the game, and they won. Seton Hall's a very good team.
They are very good. They're doing very well. No question about it.
Louisville has all that talent, and but they blew a game earlier in the season. They've now lost a couple of games that I'm sure their followers thought they should have won.
Right. Well, folks, let me tell you, Hank's been red hot. He's in the big contest out here in Las Vegas. He's only a few games out of first. He's in the Review Journal. He's leading that by a long way. And yesterday he was 7-0 on his picks. You go to the website jimfeist.com and get Hank's picks each and every day. And if you're not getting those plays, you're costing yourself money. I'm just telling you the truth. The guy's been red hot. He's been amazing. Go there. Go to jimfeist.com right now and check Hank out, because Hank is posting lots of winners, and believe me, we're all following what he's doing. Thanks, Hank. Appreciate it.
I got a selection for tonight.
Okay.
I'm not giving it here.
Okay, so it's up online. Football or basketball?
NFL game tonight.
Okay, got anything in basketball for tonight?
Yeah, there are a couple games tonight that I like. I've got 2 college picks.
Okay, so there you are, folks. Go to the website right now. Hank has a pro football game tonight and 2 college basketball games. And believe me, the guy's been red hot. You don't want to miss out. Thanks, Hank.
Okay, Jim. Have a good day.
You too.